Chapter 11. Visualization and Invention. In silence, nothing is said, yet so much is spoken. There the left and right hand of God came together at the heart center before we prostrated our body flat. Prostrating again and again, the body humbled us to the ground. There the kami looked on from all sides, spacious in every direction, hovering all around. We were being led, and this force was between heaven and earth. The kami spoke of a physical plane, a moral plane, and a celestial realm, but why couldn't we go beyond the dirt? I have a question, since it pertains to what this world has been through. If there are unseen places where the soul travels to, why doesn't the unseen reveal the truth? It seems the world is governed by corrupt politicians, and everywhere I look, countries are led by liars who favor greed. They have been put in office to help the world heal, but their biggest priority seems to be focused on what they alone want and not what the world needs. Over and over, people voice their opinion in elections. But why is it that candidates only arise when great sums of money are backing them? How is this fair? Everywhere I look, I see unfair elections. We are left to vote for a con man or an old man, and elsewhere in the world, any party who opposes a dictator is often murdered by a tyrant or president. Is there anywhere left in the world where the people's voice actually matters? We are being misled by a tiny minority who has all the political power. From this political power, the next chain of command is groomed to be in control, and the only reason the current leaders have gotten their power is due to bribes from the ways they've sold their soul. There is no fairness left, and war echoes around the entire earth. Meanwhile, the people are crying out for peace and real change, yet their suffering increases, while more and more bombs drop as the world continues to burn. When will war cease? When will an honest leader come to power? The innocent people of the world are caught in a sick system, overrun by deceitful cowards. I wish I would have listened to my spiritual soul long ago to help this troubled world. But we can't see or hear anything the unseen spirit says. Why doesn't the unseen just fix this world? Wouldn't that be best?
You've discovered that I am a kami, which means I am sacred power with the force of divinity. For so long, I tried to give the world hints that the unseen is with all of you, but it's up to any individual person to discover the unseen. I am with the world when people are upset. I am there watching over. And so I wonder why the world doesn't notice when I would cry with you. Whenever it rains, don't you realize those are my tears pouring over?
Said the kami. But why must one lose so much? Why must our world suffer? We've been breaking down. And why would the teachings involve pain if it doesn't appear that our world is getting any better?
For our transformation to be completed, there needed to be a split. You had to separate yourself from the old ideas of how you saw yourself, the world, and even reality goes through with this. And such a tear isn't painless, I must admit. The path of awakening is not for the faint of heart, but I am your guardian looking over, and I've been sending guidance from the very start. If a person is intelligent, they will learn from the mistakes that they have made. Then these mistakes are quite helpful, which become directions for finding the way. And so you ask me why it appears that our world suffers. You are curious about what I put you through. I was training you in every moment, and I withheld nothing from you. There is an ancient expression called acharya mushi, which means closed fist. And this is an expression that has been applied to great beings and teachers who withhold the teachings. At a certain point, If the teacher withholds the teachings, it is a sign that there is uncertainty about the student, themselves, or the situation. This was not the case with you. I gave you everything that I had to offer. And look, from the spiritual point of view, you've grown so much stronger. This manner of teaching allowed me to transmit the entirety of my understandings. And so, from a sacred perspective, this is pure fortune. How many others will go on about life never knowing what it means to awaken? If the Spirit decides to guide you, and if life appears to be falling apart, do not be afraid, for it is likely that you are learning how to open up your heart. This comes at the cost of your ego and your pride. Remember, we take nothing but our spirit with us once we pass on and die. So what is more valuable than spiritual growth? Everything that is material will dissolve in time, but upon this path, the fortunate souls will find the journey home,
said the kami. Then it is not up to me, but rather I must trust you. For I cannot rely upon the old and ordinary ways of thinking if I want to embrace the ultimate truth. So teach me, Kami, what must I do?
When we think of the mystery, it is not magic in the sense of conjuring or involving oneself in a myth. The mystery is the highest level of a process of personal evolution. It is the ultimate development of logic. There is a widespread misunderstanding of the mystery, which sees the mystery as something like pop art, as we embrace ignorance, aggression, and sexuality. People may have heard that in the mystery we are declaring everything as legitimate and pure, and that we can jump into the mystery by being crude and dirty. But this is not quite so, as we are much more interested in the transmutation of energy. When this process occurs, there is no room left for doubt, darkness, or impurity. We can leave the struggle behind, and we do this by a process as we visualize. We can formulate the most immaculate, pure, clean, beautiful, and spotless principle when we actualize. This is not about pretending that a piece of shit is gold, or just imagining that all our bad deeds are immediately forgiven. If that's the case, then we would be likely to slip back into our neurosis and passions, only to eventually fall into a depression. We are not exhaling crudeness, but rather we are relating with that which lives within us. We are spiritual beings, and when we remember this, we allow ourselves to create pure, clean, and even artful lives. This right understanding of the mystery is crucial for the practice of visualization. One teacher said that undertaking the practice of visualization is like going to bed with a pregnant tigress. She might get hungry in the middle of the night and decide to eat you, and then there's nothing you can do to fight with it. On the other hand, she might begin to nurse you, creating the furry warmth and texture of basic space. Practicing visualization without the proper understanding is extremely destructive. One way of thinking of this is that one could use the mind to visualize all their individual dreams and desires. Then with the power of the focused mind, you could get all of this, but you would also have to deal with the karmic toll that is required. For instance, if you wanted to make so much money to buy giant yachts, planes, and houses, you could find a way to get this. But in time, by the principle of life, you have to learn how to let go of all of it. Sounds fun for an ordinary human, but it is also ruthless and brutal. Not to mention the cost of the impact to make the money could come back to haunt you. By the practice of visualization, you may start to inquire about other desires. But what if our lower nature sneaks in? This is the case when famous celebrities sex traffic younger adults and children. Surely they never thought they would get caught, but in time, everything comes back to the surface. One might be recreating one's ego projections, and in this sense, they're just a beast or a maniac gorilla. This is when visualization goes wrong, and you can attain complete egohood. When you're so obsessed with your own security, then eventually you bring forth your own destruction. Generally, wrong visualization takes the form of intensifying ordinary mental objects. One might create an image out of wishful thinking, and before long, we're caught in a web of desire that perplexes us. There is a precise attitude and understanding of visualization corresponding to the levels of the mystery. First, we develop the understanding of suffering, impermanence, and egolessness, and insight into the structure of the ego. Then we attain understanding of the shunyata principle, which is openness, and its application to the 6 transcendent actions, which are generosity, ethical conduct, patience, diligence, meditation, and wisdom. It is not necessary to have completely mastered all of these experiences, but the student must have had some glimpses of their significance. You use up the mental gossip, or at least have taken out a corner of it. There must be some sense of having trod on the path before embarking on the way of the mystery. If one has done this, then rather than coming as a reinforcement of ego's deception, visualization will be inspired by a sense of egolessness. One can no longer deceive oneself. There is the despair of having lost one's territory, as if the carpet has been pulled out from under one's feet. When one is suspended in nowhere, then they are able to flash the non-existence, the egolessness. Only then can one visualize. This is extremely important, and it is through the fundamental practices that one can begin to see why such emphasis is placed on purity and cleanliness. Visualization is a prominent part of the mystery practice. One identifies with various iconographical figures, Sambhogakaya Buddhas, Herukas, Dakinis, saints, or other figurative pictures and symbols, and this is done to develop Vajra pride. Vajra pride is different from ordinary stupid pride. It is enlightened pride. You do have the potential of the divine. You are already it. The magic is not particularly in the visualization, but there is magic in your pride, your inspiration. Your inner essence, your spirit, is absolutely clean, immaculate, and pure. Therefore, you can identify with your own purity, rather than identifying with an external God who is pure, rather than some kind of foreign element coming into you. You are awakening yourself. So the mystery is not magic in the sense of conjuring or involving oneself in a myth. The mystery is the highest level of a process of personal evolution. It is the ultimate development of the logic that runs through the entire path. The soul is the divine. The spiritual soul is Christ, Krishna, Buddha. Yet the problem may arise that one does not think one actually is. And so in order to develop Vajra pride, one must relate directly to the pain of situations. In this case, the pain of actually being the divine and seeing the value of it. Then the pride has something valid to be proud of. Then the phenomenal world is seen as completely colorful, precisely beautiful as it is, beyond acceptance and rejection, without any problems. You have seen things in this way because you have already cut through your conceptualized notion of a self, and you have seen through your own projections,
said the kami. What if I don't know what I desire? But what if I hand my desire over to you? Can you take my body? Will that lead us to the truth?
Avishkara, you speak of the legend of invention. When you offer for a spirit to enter into your body, this is then the ultimate non-attachment and a form of surrender, which means the incarnation and appearance of an ancient deity can descend into you from heaven. To give up yourself is to give selflessly to the world. This is true love, and we would be so honored,
said the kami. How does it happen? And what must we do? I alone do not know what is best for myself or this world, but surely you can lead us to the divine breakthrough.
You are correct. That which is needed goes beyond what a single human can do. We must call for the Ancient One, and so we know this avatar as the spirit of Vishnu.
The kami paused.
And to answer your question as to how this can happen, we must first examine how a spirit can be helpful. Let us imagine what happens at the Christian church, and so we will study what the Catholics do. Every Mass, they bring forth simple bread and wine, but through the ritual of Mass, the bread and wine is transformed. Only after a divine invocation does the body and blood of Christ come into form. It's the same with Hindus. Why, they do not just worship metal or stone images of deities, but they are requesting the spirit to come into his or her ethereal form and take possession of the image. And that is where we concentrate our worship. We treat the image as a living being, because in the ritual, we are adding a spiritual force. This is called prana, which is a direct connection to the divine source. Prana is our life force. It's the Holy Spirit which lives within the breath. It is what ignites the body to be filled with life. So we can worship an image in which the Holy Spirit of God will become embodied. Or you have discovered Avishkara, which is where the formless deity can enter into someone's living body. From here, your spiritual path is accomplished, and the deity is also pleased. And as for the person into whose body the deity enters, they'll dance with the beloved and be purified in the bargain,
said the kami. And what happens when the Holy Spirit is invited to descend from heaven?
At first, you have no control over who comes or when, as they come and go as they please. As you get better at it, you request certain aspects of spirit to enter you at certain times. Then, when you are really an expert, the ethereal being themselves will beg you to permit them to enter, because they love to play about. That's the beauty of it. Finally, you enter the state in which there is no need of even the formality of Avishkara, because the spirits and deities are always with you, coming in and going out. But as for the sense of your own individual self, you often will have no idea of your own existence. If the spirit leaves you for a bit, the body feels quite terrible, because Avishkara is a tremendous strain on the nerves. But you won't care. It'll all be worth it, because a minute with the spirit cannot compare. After Avishkara is over, if a spirit decides to come into form, it may choose to exit sometime later. This means there will be a gap until the old personality is fixed in the body, and you will feel blank and empty for a few days or maybe just a couple hours. And if you want to do good Avishkara, then you can't afford to care for your own body. When the Avishkara is going on, the subject's body can endure things it would never be able to do once the spirit is embodied. In the Hindu tradition, there is the Avishkara of Mahakali, and in this state, she slashes a person's arms, neck, and tongue. Then blood pours out from the wounds, but the subject won't even feel a thing, not until afterwards. Even then, there is no problem, because the wounds close automatically and heal quickly. Another example is Anjaneya, who is also called Hanuman. He can drink a bucketful of mustard oil with a pound of oxide, poison, or mercury, and nothing will happen to him, for that is the power of Anjaneya,
said the kami. Then I will hand over my body to God and you. So what am I left to do? Take my body, mind, speech, and spirit, divine essence of eternity. May you take command and bring forth the truth. And so the kami spoke.
Close your eyes. Begin to let go. Let go of who you are, and let go of what you think you know. Time for our next chapter. Time to enter into a new cycle of life. For the next time you rise, there will be an ancient spirit looking out through your eyes. And when the world wonders what happened, or who it is that exists within, hear the wind as it whispers and explains how I am heaven sent. For this body is not you, nor is it me. We are all one together. We are the essence of eternity,
said the kami.